Howdy, friends, and welcome back to the 7-Day Boogie. It is I, your host, the Boogieman, and it is a snow day today. Let me tell you, friends, here at Boogie headquarters, we're snowed in. Most snow we've gotten all year, and there's really no stopping in sight. So I'm wearing a sweatsuit. It is very cold. There's nothing to do but watch movies, play video games, and to record the 7-Day Boogie podcast. If you're watching, check us out on Spotify or iTunes. If you're listening, check us out on YouTube. We got two different versions, a video version and an audio-only version. They're pretty much the same, just you get to see stuff if you go to the video version. How about it? So what have I been doing? Hanging out, watching movies, and playing video games. And the movie of the week this week is another installment of the most Soulsist movie. Right? This week's movie is an old school movie. 1957, Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal. The story of this movie is that there's a knight returning home following the Crusades, and he is not stoked about what he's been up to, obviously. A little, crestfallen, let's say, Soul's term. Looking for answers, looking to know if he's been doing the right thing, and he runs into the Grim Reaper. In this movie, they just refer to him as Death. I will do the same thing. He runs into the embodiment of death on a beach. Very cool visually. The visuals of this movie really carry it. Death basically says, I've come for you. It is, it's your time. He's doing the death thing. And the main character, the knight, says, hold on there. How do you fancy a little game for my soul instead of you just taking it, which is the usual order of operations? And Death is amused by this, by the foolish optimism of this knight, takes him on, and they start playing chess. That is the basis of the movie. A knight playing chess against death in exchange for his soul, so that the knight can maybe continue on to find out more about, these religious doubts, these existential doubts that he's feeling following his time in the Crusades. That's super Souls-like. We meet some other characters, some people come in and out. There is some real, what is the truth of religion conversation happening in this movie. There is a real sense that you are seeing a world that is past its prime, right? That is super Dark Souls as well, where maybe there was a cataclysmic event. And while typically a movie or a video game will take place during that event, we're kind of entering a world that's already in its last chapter or several chapters after the ending, right? This world is pretty cooked in this movie. Not a ton of cool stuff happening. There's some jugglers and actors going around trying to help people out. It doesn't really go well. No one's really trying to see improv comedy during the post-Crusades plague-ridden era. I have done improv and don't really want to see it now. So I definitely wouldn't want to see it if I was worried about the plague if you know what I mean. So there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of like, this world is spent. How do we get past this? What happens? Is there an afterlife? You know, those types of questions, while this knight is essentially journeying back to his castle, his like family's lands, and talking to all these people. There's like a blacksmith, Dark Souls reference. There's all these things that you can kind of associate to Dark Souls, just like I was with some of the pieces that were happening in Solomon Kane. But for me, the things that stuck out to me most as like Dark Souls is just the bleak nature, the bleak state that the world is in. These, again, there's like literally a character called the Crestfallen Knight, who is just like so bummed that he just sits around and is bummed professionally. So that is kind of what our knight is doing. Also, if you do watch this, he has a squire. That dude sucks. Get him out of here. If you watch The Seventh Seal, keep an eye out. He's just like a sarcastic bummer of a bad guy the whole time. He's just like, this all sucks. And it's like, no, duh. We know it sucks. There's the plague. We were just in the Crusades. That was awful. The squire in this movie's no good. I was a fan of the juggler, the nice, funny juggler guy, who I thought was definitely going to get his head cut off. I liked that guy, but there's some pretty cool visual stuff. Again, like I said, in The Seventh Seal. From top to bottom, kind of a dull movie, as some movies from that era are, where they couldn't really do a lot. So they just kind of have these like increasingly intense conversations about kind of what they think is going on, or, you know, it's pretty dialogue heavy in a lot of ways. But it's very clear that The Seventh Seal had a ton of influence in popular media following that, right? Like a lot of the medieval stuff, like I could see Game of Thrones taking some like visual elements from this. There's a lot of like playing death in a game references and a lot of good movies. One of my favorite movies, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, basically has it like entire sections. A major plot point of that movie is basically the plot of The Seventh Seal, where they play death in like Jenga and Battleship and Twister. I almost said Spin the Dots, but that game is called Twister. They play they play death in a lot of the games in that movie, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and I think that's why I would rather watch that, because they basically has the plot of The Seventh Seal in it, but also Keytars in Bogus Journey. So I think Wild Stallions really give the leg up to the storyline of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey versus The Seventh Seal. Bogus Journey, not necessarily an extremely Souls-like movie, but transitive property slightly because of its relation to The Seventh Seal. This is like, I have turned the Dark Souls relation movie game basically into like the Kevin Bacon game. Like I have trained my brain now to see relations between almost any movie and Dark Souls, which has been a pretty fun game to play. This movie, because of the Bill and Ted relation and, you know, the idea of playing a game against death for your soul, made me obviously wonder what game would I pick against the Grim Reaper for my soul. Fall Guys. I would play him in Fall Guys. I would play death in a game of UFC Undisputed 3 on the PlayStation 3. I was basically undefeated against my friends in that game in college. Rampage Jackson just ducking overhand right, just KOing any of my foes as necessary. I wouldn't play like Tony Hawk, because I think he would use cheats. I think he would use Mullen power, and he would do something nefarious to get some kind of crazy level up. I would play like the hand smack game against. I'm pretty quick at that, like where you put your hand on top of mine and then you do the flip and smack. I would do that game. I think I would do pretty good at that. You tell me, what would you play against the Grim Reaper in a twisted battle for your soul? What's the game you're best at against death themselves? So check out The Seventh Seal. I watched it for free on YouTube with subtitles. There is a Prime version, but the subtitles were kind of in the wrong order. They were a little bit delayed when I was watching it. So like while Death was speaking, it was the Knight's lines and vice versa. But it's cool. I would say it's a snow day watch. I'd put it in that category. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Hope you enjoy. And while the search for the most Souls movie is an endeavor that I am dedicated to, every once in a while, watching fantasy movie after fantasy movie can get a little bit tiring. So I took a vacation movie-wise this week. The love of my life and I watched a new Netflix crime banger called The Rip. And that is the bonus movie suggestion of the week. I would consider this a snow day classic. Crime movies. I'd say crime movies, horror movies, and fantasy movies are like what I would be into during a snowed in type of situation, which is what I'm in. So that's where I'm at. I'd throw a sci-fi crime, Blade Runner, Serenity, those types of movies. But the movie that I'm recommending, if you don't want to watch, if you're looking for a crime movie that you haven't seen yet, new Matt Damon, Ben Affleck banger, The Rip. I'm not going to tell you too much about it. I'm only going to tell you a couple things. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck in this movie playing chess while I'm busy looking for batteries for my Tamagotchi. Okay? The plot twists and turns. You don't know who to trust. Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? What's going on? Matt Damon is hilarious in a couple parts. There's a very good supporting cast behind Matt and Ben, but come on, we're here for Matt and Ben. Ben Affleck is solidifying himself, in my opinion, as one of the best on-screen cigarette smokers in history. Really good at smoking cigs is Ben Affleck, and he does it a lot in this movie. He's like, there's a part where he's tactically holding his weapon and he's got a cig between his first two fingers. Bad discipline for his bad trigger discipline, but he looks really cool. I think similar to my theory that Nick Cage gets like one freak out scene per movie in his contract, I think Ben Affleck's like, right, and my character smokes a lot of cigarettes, right? Like I'll be able to smoke cigs this whole movie process, and I think that gets written into most of the plots of the movies that he's in. That would be my guess. But this movie, basically like a drug siege team, right? Like a search. What do they call? I think they call them rips, but they're like, we flip trap houses. That's our job. They like get a cue on a potential bust and they find like $20 million in this house that they're raiding. And the rest of the movie is basically like, what the fuck do we do with $20 million? So they don't know if they're going to like turn and keep the money, if they can trust each other within their like rip team. It's awesome. Ben Affleck is great. Matt Damon is great. Steven Yeun, Tiana Taylor, multiple other like great. It's a tight cast. Everyone's good though. I was really into it. Check it out. Snow Day movie suggestion number 2, The Rip. A nice little breath strip after watching so many like dark fantasy movies. Highly recommend if you're into the crime drama. The Rip. Without further ado, I've got a little game section for you, as always, looking at what's coming soon, very soon, in the gamer realm, a game that I'm looking forward to checking out, toss it over to the Frog Bard. What is up, gamer friends? It is I, the Frog Bard, here to talk about a new game coming out in the next month that I'm really looking forward to. Resident Evil Requiem, the 9th Resident Evil game, is coming out, and I am stoked. If you know me, you know I love the Resident Evil games. I was too scared to play them on PlayStation when they originally came out because I was a child, and my older brothers played them, but I was much too scared, and I would barely watch them play it, and I would run away crying. So as I grew older and my video game tastes matured, I found them through the remakes of Resident Evil 2 and 3, and basically played every Resident Evil game that I could following that. 4, 5, 6, Biohazard, and Village. So I'm really excited for this 9th installment of Resident Evil to come out. And I am interested to see how the gameplay options they have for you change the way that you approach the game. So if you're not used to the Resident Evil franchise, some of the games have multiple campaigns that you can play. You can play the story from different points of view. For example, you can see events in Resident Evil 2 from different sides. There's 2 characters, Leon and Claire, that you can play as. And events happen where you kind of come together for certain parts of the stories, and then you split up, and you can see where each character goes during those sections where you split up, which is pretty cool. Something similar, I think, is going to be used in Resident Evil 9, Resident Evil Requiem. So also, from what I saw, you can switch between a first and third person perspective throughout these games. The third person perspective, obviously, being how you play the character in Resident Evil 2, 3, 4, basically all of the original Resident Evil games, and then they switched to the first-person perspective when they really revamped the series for Resident Evil 7. But I'm really excited for this game. It comes out at the end of February, so I won't have to wait very long for this game. I have not really dove into a first-person game like this in a while. You know me, Arc Raiders has kind of taken over my life, so I am really stoked for this. I'm not looking too much into the story. I want that to kind of unveil itself as I play the game. From what I have seen, some of the zombie designs are pretty different. It looks like the zombies, rather than being just these like pretty typical brain-eating, slow-walking zombies, I've seen some clips where they're a little bit more active. They're a little bit more participating in their tasks as they were in their regular life. I can't show too much footage here because I don't want my channel to get laser beamed from the face of the earth. But look up some of the trailers for the gameplay, the extended stuff where they're interviewing some of the producers of the game, or the designers on the game, rather. And check out Resident Evil Requiem. I'm really excited. Like I said, I might do some streaming of the new game, or post some playing footage of me playing through it. If you want to see someone struggle through a survival horror game, let me know, and I can oblige for a zombie playthrough extravaganza. Also, in Resident Evil news, there is a new Resident Evil movie coming out. And it's being directed by Zach Kreger, who is in the Whitest Kids You Know sketch comedy group that is a bunch of geniuses. He also directed Barbarian and Weapons, which are 2 horror movies that I really, really enjoyed. They are a little bit surprising in where the scares come from, right? Like, I didn't really know what to expect going into either movie, and I was really surprised. So if anyone is able to make a movie in like as off-kilter of a universe as Resident Evil, I trust Zach Kreger to be the one to kind of bring that story into something interesting on screen. The Mila Jovovich Resident Evil movies are not my favorite movies ever, so there's not a ton of competition, I think, as far as Zach Kreger's new Resident Evil movie. I did see that it's going to be an original story. So it's not going to be like a rendition or like a retelling of like Resident Evil 4 or anything like that. Like, it's in the universe. But again, that is to say, like, what part of the universe is it in, right? Because there's a lot of kind of retroactive writing corrections that they can have made in the storyline, right? Like the Umbrella Corporation, where the virus comes from, how it evolves, what it does to people, what, you know, the zombies actually are. So there's a lot of kind of ups and downs, or I guess a lot of leeway as far as where they take the storyline. I am also, this kind of had me asking the question of, what if I were to make a Resident Evil movie? What would my Resident Evil movie look like? And I think that if I were going to make a Resident Evil movie, I would make Resident Evil 7 prequel movie. There's a DLC in Resident Evil 7, which Resident Evil 7 is one of the best horror games I've ever played. There's a family, like kind of a cultish Texas Chainsaw Massacre style family that has been corrupted in Resident Evil 7, and I think that the storyline of how that family becomes corrupted, you see glimpses of it in Resident Evil 7. Again, I think there's like an additional level where they really kind of play through that storyline, and they explain a lot more of how that family ends up in the condition you find them in during the main game. I would make the Resident Evil 7, like the corruption of that family as a movie, right? I think I would do that, and I would end the movie with the found footage tape that you find in the game. In the game, you find like a Ghost Hunter style VHS tape, right? From like a TV crew that came to investigate the haunted house. That's how I would end my Resident Evil movie. It would be the prequel to Resident Evil 7, ending with the VHS tape of the haunted house crew falling victim to the family, and then maybe like a post-credit sequence of the voicemail that brings Ethan into the story. Huh? And then, you know, that would just, you would leave the theater and you would be handed a copy of Resident Evil 7. I'm only making one movie. I'm not starting a cinematic universe. You're just handed a copy of Resident Evil 7, and they're like, do you want to know what happens? Play this video game, right? Multimedia campaign. Another cool idea, I think, for a Resident Evil game, and I think they've kind of dabbled in this and some of the animated features that they've made, but I can't say for sure because I haven't seen all of them. I love the story of Resident Evil 2. I think the set pieces, how they change throughout the story, are really, really cool, because you've got the Raccoon City police station that's this huge labyrinthian police station with all these like secret rooms and keys and stuff like that. You've got like the underground area of the story as well. You've got like a science lab. You know, you've got all these really cool, striking set pieces in Resident Evil 2 that I think would lend themselves really, really well to maybe like a smaller cast, grittier, lower budget, maybe not low budget, but you know what I mean? Like not a ton of like grand scale in the movie, like keep it kind of tight, slower scenes, like focus, like half hour in the police station, a half hour into the labs, and then, you know, maybe end the movie at like the grand climax with the Titans, or I'm messing up the names of the zombies in Resident Evil, but you know what I'm talking about. The Mr. X's of the world. That would be a really cool, like just hearing the thumping footsteps as Leon is opening, you know, different corridors in the police station, and then the different kind of like that scientist that gets all morphed in the lab. Like that would be a really cool set piece. But that's what I would do, like I said, if I were making a Resident Evil movie. But I'm not. Zach Kreger is. And I'm excited for it. I hope you are too. We'll probably continue to cover it as the timeline goes in, because it's video games, it's movies. It's kind of what this show is all about, between myself, the Frog Bard, and the Boogieman JT. So that's what's up with gaming right now. It's a Resident Evil start to 2026. Thank you. We're throwing it back to JT. See ya. Thank you, Frog Bard. I'm scared. So that's really going to do it for today's ep. It's a snow day episode. I've got more video games to play myself, soups to eat, broths to heat, and that's really going to do it for the episode. Thank you so much for watching. Something that I do want to do soon is get back in my city, the city where I live. There used to be a really awesome indoor skate park, and there isn't anymore. So the snow is slowing down the rippage, and that's bugging me. So I need to find a way to shred some gnar soon. Maybe we'll do a little podcast field trip to an indoor skate park kind of close, far away. Just an idea. But that's what I'm looking forward to, is getting outside and getting rid of the snow. And I am ready to shred. I want some nice weather, or a new indoor skate park where I live, But that is something we'll just have to figure out another day. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for stopping by and watching. If you're watching, the 7-Day Boogie is back. We're having a great time. Stay tuned. Subscribe. Send it to a friend. Like. Comment what you would play against the Grim Reaper in a twisted match of fate for your soul. And until next time, have a good one. I love ya. Mwah.